Hello and welcome to Rad class. Today I'm going to talk about schools. I've already done a topic about that, but this time I'm going to focus on the schools in the USS and only that. So, schools in America functions a lot like other schools and then not. There are some traits in the schools that are very American-like. But I'm gonna try and cover um, what they do and what I think they should do different. And all the information I have on schools is something I have read about or found out or researched into. So I do hope all the data I found is up to date. Some of it was a few years old, so I forgive you if the data is no longer valued. But schools in America. Well, just like any other school, the school system is made to teach kids, to make them better citizens in the end. But how do you do that? Well, you teach them the main language of the country you live in. You teach them history, biology, and stuff like that. And then you try to keep them up to date what is happening in society so they grow up with their own opinion and their own bias about stuff so they can actually do meaningful opinions and decisions when they grow up. But that is not always the case in America. But let's look at what they actually have in the schools. They do have English, they have biology, and math. They have to have those three things. Other subjects like debating and so forth can be taken on the side. They also have a bit of history, but it's very uh, pro-American, so to speak. It's not looking outside the US or why the US did what they did. So it kind of twists the reality into a USA point of view. And a lot of countries are doing that, but a lot of countries is also looking at the bad stuff they done, like the US when they um, took all the Japanese and put them in camps during World War II. Um, but not everyone know this because it's not taught because it's not something they want out. Where in Germany they actually teach about the Holocaust so that future generations can prevent it from happening again. So you can teach about dark sides of your history. You just have to do it in the right way. Then the next thing is, just like any other school, the schools in America have teachers, and teachers vary, and they do that all over the place, because even though they all have the same education, a person varies from person to person because they might have different hobbies or viewpoints or biases, and they take all that and out from that they actually try and make a program that can educate people. So some people are very good at it, teaching classes, but are not very good at actually looking at the students as persons, as human beings. So they prioritize knowledge instead of well-being. And the problem is if a person is not feeling comfortable, is not feeling well, then their ability to learn is almost gone. So they will come further and further behind. Well, teachers in the States have it a bit worse than other teachers around the world though, because they have a really bad salary in most places. And some of the schools that they work at are so poorly maintained and funded that they have to buy their own equipment they have to use in class. Some of the books they have to teach with might be 40 years old or something like that. And I know it's not all of the schools. I'm just saying that some of the schools have it like that. And when you have schools like that, the level of education will fall. Even though the teachers might be doing their very best, then they still turn out students who have less knowledge than other places where they might have textbooks who are new and up to date. Then we have sex education. That is actually something all schools should be teaching, but it varies a lot how it's done. And some places actually allow the parents to say, I don't want my kid to know about this, so the days you have sexual education, we will take them out of class, and that's okay for that school. And some places they actually teach about safe sex, condoms, and all that. And some places they teach that it's not okay to have sex before marriage and stuff like that. So they're actually not teaching it. It's just yeah. Sorry, I find that stupid. Because kids will still go out and have sex, and then they don't know what to do because you didn't teach them well. Then the next thing is they have biology. And in biology, they tend to learn about evolution, but not everywhere, because some places they are where they are very, very religious. They might have a leader who says we don't want that to be taught here, or the people in the city is saying we don't want that to be taught here. So that affects what the kids can be taught in biology. So there is some places where it could be better. Like I know America is a big country, but there should be like a general set of rules because right now it's very much up to every county to do what they find best. There is some tests who are state-wise and country-wise, but above that there isn't all that control. And I know that getting the entire country to teach the same might sound insane, but it will enable everyone on any school to get the same level of education. Because right now, the schools in America, the way they are funded, for example, is based on where the schools are and how the schools are doing. So, because of the last 100 years or so of racism that is still going on at some places, the Black and Latino communities have become poorer and poorer. So the schools there are getting less and less funded, which means that the kids of those people are getting a worse and worse education. Also, they drop out in way higher numbers than other places. So that means that they already am behind from the start, and that's terrible because that means that we actually might have lost some great people already just because of where they live. I, for once, actually do wish that every kid in the world should be able to get an education and the same level of education in the country. Because when we educate our children, we make them better adults. When we get better adults, we get a better world. So by doing that, where you take this large portion of the people and poorly educate them will just lead to problems down the line. So now that we have an idea of how the schools are funded, then that means that a lot of those schools in the poor districts are very poorly maintained and is the schools where teachers have to buy material on their own from their low salary. And I really admire the teachers who are doing that, who is going the extra mile for the students because they care and because they love their job. But it just shows that so many of them might stop giving a shit about what they're doing because they feel overrun and not heard and not seen. And I know it's going to cost a lot of money, and governments usually don't want to use a lot of money. But schools is something that you should always have high on your list because they educate the future generations. Those generations who have to work and take care of us when we get old and get weak. So it's important to teach them well because they are the foundation that we have to live on. So I propose for the USA that it would be amazing if they set a set amount of money and said, this is the amount of money every school will get. And then they set aside some money for renovations and stuff like that that schools can apply for. Because a lot of schools are worn down because it is expensive to actually keep schools going. But the more you go waiting and not doing anything about the problems in the school, the more expensive it will become down the line because it might start as a roof that just needs a new roof, but then it rains a lot in a month and then the ceiling is broken as well. Then there's two things to repair now, and then I just keep going. So there should be some sort of rescue budget that schools can apply to when stuff happens to the school and it needs to be renovated. So give the teachers a better salary because that will also mean that they have a more surplus of energy to actually teach better. And they might actually begin to be better at doing teaching on different levels because students are often on different levels. And it has different words around the world. But what it means is students might be, let's say, if we have a scale from 1 to 5, some students in the class is doing stuff at level 5 and some is doing it at level 1. And the teacher have to teach both ends because if you fail to teach the one who is at level 5, they'll become bored and then they won't go to school and they'll just be like laissez-faire about it and don't really want to learn, even though they have great potential. Then we have someone level 1. They also need to be taught, but in a different way than the rest of the class because they are maybe having dyslexia or a bit behind or something happened at home. So we have to be able to teach a broader front instead of just a narrow front. And to do that, you have to have a surplus of energy to actually sit down and do find a way to teach the entire class. And that is very important. Then the next thing is that teachers need to learn about well-being because as I said earlier, well-being is so important in teaching. Because if you have a class where some kids are not feeling right, feeling unwelcome, then their well-being is very bad, and you don't pay attention to it, and you don't help them to get better, then their grades will drop, and they might drop out because they don't feel welcome there, they don't feel all right there, they may change schools. So it's important to look at well-being, and I actually think that well-being is more important than teaching the stuff in the schools. And I have even written reports about it. But it is something that is often overlooked in the broader picture because schools are made to teach facts and then test kids in what they learned to see if they learned it all. And then well-being often becomes this like, oh, sometimes a teacher is, okay, I'm gonna do this, and other times teachers are just like, it's not my job, I don't have time for it, I don't care about it. And that is the sad thing about we all being human beings. We have different opinions. And as long as it's not something that is looked as being equal to teaching, like, say, math and English and history and biology, then you will lose a lot of kids. And they might end up being alone, not getting educated, and feeling left out. And that is a horrible feeling for kids to have, and it will haunt them for maybe the rest of their life. Now, um, then the next thing is the history thing. And I'm talking about past history and current history because it seems that in a lot of schools they don't actually teach what is going on in the world or in the States for that matter. So you have to take extra classes like a debate class where you actually have to research what is going on right now or talk about what is going on right now. And in a lot of schools around the world, they actually have something called social study, where or they have some special weeks a year where they have focus on what is going on in the world. How can we make the world a better place? What have we to offer for the world? And it is a great way to learn about what life is like around the world. Because if you don't know how life is in a different culture, a different country, um, your opinion of them will likely be very not great, because you don't really understand them. You're like, why are they doing this? Why this happening? And but if you actually are taught about why they're doing this and what is happening, you have a great understanding. So that means when you actually have to talk with someone from there, or talk to others about it, you will have a better point of view to actually talk about it. Your foundation will be better. Now, the sad thing is that it will keep teaching kids that America is great, and it is great in some ways and forms, and not so much in others. But if you're only taught that USA is the best, then you will think that United States is the best, and no one can convince you otherwise because that opinion you have based can be very hard to shake because it can be very hard as an adult to get facts about other places and then see that you might not have been taught the right way in schools. So I actually advocate for having a class where you can teach about current affairs, older affairs, history, both the good and the dark side. So you have a broader foundation to make your own opinions on that can evolve out and make you a broader person. Um, then there is a good thing, I actually think, in the US school system. Almost all schools in America has cantinas where you can get lunch. The lunch might not be the best everywhere. Again, that comes down to funding. But if there were funding to actually have the schools make a proper lunch every day for every kid that was full of energy and nutrients and was healthy, that would actually help the country overall with obesity and teaching how to eat properly and stuff like that. And it would save a lot of money for a lot of parents and a lot of families out there. And it will mean that every kid will have this one proper meal a day. And that will actually help them be able to take learning in even better than if they're just eating some very unhealthy snacks that they have gotten with them to school because that's what their parents are able to give them. So, to kind of recap, I would say if I were in the shoes of the one who have to be the uh, minister of education, I would set out a plan on the things that need to be taught in all schools, no matter if it is a religion country or not, no matter if their parents will become mad as hell because some things have to be learned. Then I would look at budgets all over the world and on the schools because you actually, the USA are using a lot of money on the schools, but the way that they are giving out the money is so unjust. So that's where I would go and look and be more just so everyone gets an equal amount. Then I would take all the teachers and offer them uh, courses in how to become better at doing a good job at making the class a good place, looking at well-being and how to learn to take care of kids who might have heartaches or anxiety or uh, some sort of diagnose, because then you actually have a good foundation for the kids to actually come to school and learn and become even better adults. And when we have better adults, we can improve the world that we are living in a lot. And it might actually end up with a school where you actually have people who know about current affairs, past affairs, and will be more open to learning, reading, and all that in the future, so that the viewpoint of the world that often sadly look at people from the USA as stupid fat people will change into just being people from the USA. It's actually just people like the rest of us, because you are able to debate, you are able to talk about past history, present history, dark sides, good sides, and you are able to debate during presidential debates where there's actually a good debate going, and all that sort of stuff that the world actually watches. And we would be able to see you as the people you are, because you are just the people who are trying their best. But there is still some stuff that needs to be looked over and that needs to actually be twisted and adjusted a bit to work that better. And I do believe you can do it because you have done a lot of progress before. And the sad thing here is that due to the school system have been so broken in so many years, it can take a long time to fix it again. And the longer you wait, the worse it gets. So I hope that whoever listened to this have found it interesting, and that, as I said in the start, that the data is still viable. And I hope that you have a pleasant day. And this has been Rad Class. Goodbye.